guys, it's Middle, and I have a video jam-packed with a bunch of songwriting tips and tricks for you. I cannot wait to share this knowledge. I'm so excited, so I hope you all came ready and prepared to learn. So a little bit about me. As I said, I go by Middle. That's my stage name. I'm a recording artist, producer, and engineer here in the city of Toronto. So when it comes to songwriting, I've been doing that for over a decade now. I started out, it was a passion. It came natural to me. It felt comfortable. It was a way for me to get some emotions out. It was a great pastime, hobby. And over time, I realized that love started to grow. So I went to college. And I studied audio production and engineering. So within that program alone, we also did definitely have a course on songwriting. So not only is songwriting a personal thing for me, but also I do have post-secondary education that backs up my knowledge in songwriting, as well as I've done a lot of personal research on my own, just on the internet, reading articles, watching videos, attending talks and workshops, etc., etc., etc. So I've got a little bit of things to tell y'all. Here's what we're going to cover today. First things first, number 1, what is a song? Number 2, counting bars. Number 3, song structure. Number 4, the making of a hit song. Number 5, finding creativity and inspiration. Number 6, beat/instrumental selection. Number 7, finding your voice. And lastly, I'll just go over some overall advice and tips and tricks, and we'll end off there. What is a song? Plain and simple. I don't want to waste too much time on this because I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys already have a good handle on what a song is anyways, but it's always important to start from the ground up and really understand what you're working on and what you're working towards accomplishing, so I'll still cover it regardless. A song is a musical composition that includes music, which is instruments, vocals, whatever, and or words. That just means as long as the sounds being put together has the intent of being musical, regardless if it just contains words or it just contains instruments, it can be classified as a song. Next up, counting bars. In the first place, what even is a bar? A bar is a measurement of time where a specific segment of music holds a certain number of beats. Very, very complex and confusing sounding. Basically, just think of a bar as a container, and we're counting how many beats fit into that container. The amount of beats that fit into that container is determined by the time signature. When we're referring to music, pop music, rap music, pretty much 99-100% of the time signature is 4/4, also known as common time. When I say 99 to 100% of the time when it comes to pop and rap music, I'm being very specific there. I'm talking about popular music, the music that you hear on the radio, the music that you're jamming to. Like, more often than not, the timing will be 4/4 time. To provide a bit more clarity surrounding this, I'm going to show an example. Basically, when you're listening to a song and you can count 1, 2, 3, 4 easily along with the beat, that's in 4/4 time. It's very simple, and that's why it's most common. Keep in mind that we have to keep track of how many bars are going by sometimes when we're writing for a song. Sometimes you're collabing with someone and they want you on the hook or they want you on a verse and they're just like, hey, I need you to do 16 bars. Are you up for it? You need to know exactly when to stop, when to start, etc. So a nice way to keep track of how many bars are going by is when we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4. When we get to the next bar, we're gonna switch the first number to the number of the bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. We're keeping track. That means 4 bars had passed by. It's a nice, easy, hassle-free way to do it, and it doesn't take too much time to get used to. But of course, you can always listen to songs that you love or listen to random beats and keep track until you get really good at counting bars. I'm gonna play a beat. Once the intro's over and we hear the first boom from the kick drum, that's when we're gonna start counting. When the kick hits, we go 1 and we continue on. You'll see. Ready? about to start talking about song structure, but it's really important to get a good grip on counting bars. You'll see when I start talking about song structure and I'm talking about verse and chorus, there's a commonality when it comes to the length of those things in a song, and we count those by using bars. Also, when you're personally writing, sometimes the best way for you to determine when is the time to start writing the chorus and the beat, whatever, is by counting bars. Sometimes you get it, it comes natural to you, that's just how you write, or maybe you've listened to a lot of music and you've just picked up on it. But other times, if that didn't come to you right away, it's good to know and understand how to count through a beat and write accordingly. Producers also follow the same structures when they're making their beats, because they understand that an artist is going to jump on the beat and they're going to need to write a verse, chorus, whatever. So they usually make little cues, like they switch things up every like 4 to 8 bars, and normally you can hear that and you'll know that that's a signal for you to switch up what you're doing as well. I'm not even going to lie to you guys right now. Low key, I know the beginning of the video kind of seems boring. These are the little things that we need though to build our skills and really understand exactly what is going on and what we're doing. It will pick up, I promise you. It's about to get really fun. We're gonna do some lit activities. It's gonna be good. Now we're gonna talk about song structure. We are one step closer to the video getting more exciting. Song structure is how a song is laid out, like what form it's laid out in, what parts are compiled to make this song. I'm gonna list off the parts that we find most common in songs across all genres, but predominantly rap and pop songs. So I'll tell you the titles of them and then we'll go into further detail. First is intro, second verse, third is chorus or hook. Those two terms can be interchangeable. Fourth is bridge, and lastly we have the outro. Alright, I'm gonna cut to the chase. We're not gonna beat around the bush anymore. I know we're here to talk rap, so I'm gonna start just being very specific and saying rap. When it comes to an intro in rap music, the typical length of that is 4 to 8 bars. Honestly, sometimes an intro can be as little as 2 bars, sometimes non-existent entirely, but basically the intro happens right at the beginning of the song. This is where a rapper usually takes advantage of talking, whether they're just like talking big, shouting out their block or shouting out whoever in their life. Maybe they're spelling their name or saying their name. Maybe it's just like ambient sounds or sound effects, whatever. Or maybe it's just the producer's beat playing out. The next part we're going to talk about is the verse. Now, the verse is usually 16 bars long when it comes to rap music. Obviously, all of these things can be bent, and sometimes you'll find shorter or longer verses, but that's the most common. The verse is the meat and potatoes of a song. This is where you're telling the story. You're being very specific here. You're elaborating on the idea of the song. So if you were trying to write about love, this is where you get specific about exactly what about love you're writing about. Like, are you writing about a specific person? Are you writing about experiences you've had with each other? Are you writing about why you love this person? This is where we tell the story. Verses usually are very similar musically. So if you're listening to a beat, the first time you hear the verse in the beat, when you hear it the second time, you'll recognize it because they're usually pretty much identical with just a little bit of things changed. And that's cool. And also you can use this same tactic when it comes to writing your flows. In the first verse, your flow can be a certain way or follow a certain pattern, and then within the second verse, you can follow that exact same pattern. That's okay. Let's talk about the chorus/hook. For simplicity's sake, let's just stick to saying hook. The hook is usually 8 bars long, and this is a part of the song that literally hooks the listener in. I'm sure we're all familiar with hooks. That's the part of the song that's really catchy, and by listening to it, you know exactly what's going on and like what to expect from the rest of the song. The hook, unlike the verse, is vague in nature, so we're not being specific, but we're talking about the themes of the overall song. The listener typically can repeat back that part immediately, if not at least by the second or third time that it's repeated within the song. The bridge. There's a lot of confusion surrounding a bridge. What is that? Basically, the bridge is a part of a song that is inserted normally after a verse or chorus, like right in between when another verse or chorus is gonna enter. So if we just repeated the chorus, then we put a bridge there, and that would help to build momentum until we get to the next chorus. I realized I probably lost y'all in the first half, so here's the entire definition of a bridge that I had written. You can pause the video and look that over and get back to it. As much as we love repetition as humans, we also get super tired of patterns. Our brains are always picking up patterns, and then we end up getting sick of things. So inserting a bridge to break up some of the repetition in a song can be useful sometimes. The bridge can help with making things easier to digest. So after all that repetition, inserting a bridge makes us able to focus on the verse, the chorus, and then there's this nice middle ground where we reset ourselves and then get right back to the familiarity of the upcoming verse or chorus. Think about it like if you were taste testing things and you were eating a lot of the same thing and your tongue was getting tired of that taste. You might need something to cleanse your palate, like a beverage or something. You have that, and then you're feeling okay and you're ready to start tasting things again. That's what the bridge can do for a song. Lastly, the outro. So the outro is really simple, just like the intro. The outro, now we're leaving the song. This can be a chorus repeated again. Sometimes people like to do that. Or it can be a part of the song specifically being repeated over and over. Or just let it play out, let the beat play out, and that can be an outro. It really all depends. Sometimes the outro is something we haven't heard yet in the song. So it can be just like a new piece of music that's playing out or whatever, and it helps us to wither away and get out of the emotional landscape that we were invested in while listening to the song. You can just pause here to see some examples of song structure. You'll notice the lettering being used to describe certain sections of the songs. That's because when we do talk about song structure, we often refer to those sections as letters. So verse is A, chorus is B, and bridge is C. I'm realizing these examples can almost make it seem that songs only start with intro or verse. Of course, that's not the case. A lot of songs actually do start with the chorus or hook. Drake, in fact, actually loves doing this. We see this in one of his earliest hits, Best I Ever Had, and right down to one of his newest hits, Laugh Now, Cry Later. Some songs, including rap songs, also contain pre-choruses. Not always, but if they do, they're nice and short, about 4 bars. Examples are All of the Lights by Kanye West and Blinded by the Lights by The Weeknd. These 2 songs come up a little later as well. When it seems like a song isn't following structures like this, then it's probably a freestyle song. And I know we associate freestyle with rhyming off the top of our heads, but that's not always what it means. It can also mean like more so free-form writing. So that's basically a song that just doesn't follow a specific structure. You're just kind of writing all the way through. There's no hooks, none of that. This is probably the part you guys were most excited about by far when you saw it, and that's making a hit song. Everything that we've been talking about goes into making a hit song. Now it's up to you to go on like Billboard or listen to the radio, whatever, and pick out those songs that are doing the best and really look into them. Do they follow these structures? What is the subject matter? What are they talking about? Get to the bottom of why the song is doing so well. These hit songs, honestly, they have like a whole team behind them. Sometimes, especially when you're new, it's just you. So this is a big thing to take on trying to write a hit song. Don't beat yourself up about it if you know you wrote a good song, but it's not doing as well as you thought it should. Things happen over time, and it takes a lot to really understand what's going into making a hit song. Quite honestly, it's not just going to be following these tips that make your song skyrocket. There's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes in terms of branding, marketing, etc., etc., etc. But right now we're just talking about songwriting, so get this down, and then you can look into all the other stuff. Make sure you're comparing songs across genres, Like, it's not just a rap thing. Like, look into pop, look into folk, look into R&B, look into country, like, look into all of it, because all these similarities do show up in all these different genres. It's not just a rap thing. Alright, so enough of that. Let's get to the tips. When it comes to writing verses, I'm going to show you a few ways to do this. First, let's cover some terminology real quick. I'm going to be saying things like first person, second person, and third person. What is that? First person refers to when you're speaking from a personal perspective. So when I'm saying I, me, my. Second person is when you're speaking about someone else's perspective, like you're speaking to someone about their perspective. So words like you, yours, yourself. Third person is when you're saying words like theirs, hers, his, she, he. That's third person. Here's a simple way to put it. First person is me, second person is you, third person is them, and they ain't in the room. So when it comes to writing a hit verse, you want to talk about things like yourself, describe your surroundings, describe your behavior, your actions, talk about your aspirations, your goals, your dreams. What do you want? Like, is it more money? Is it a higher social status? Are you the best musically? Like, are you gonna be the GOAT? Let us know in that verse.
A little bonus tip that's sometimes cool with verses is if you follow the same flow as your chorus within the first couple lines of your verse. I'll show you an example a little later in the video.
Now that we understand first, second, and third person, we're gonna blend it with those descriptors. So for example, we can use second person plus add the description of your surroundings. For example, if I were to say, you don't know how lonely it gets in this room, now I'm transporting you personally, the listener, into my world. This is a great way to start a verse because it gets people engaged. They want to hear more. Another great pair is first person and describing your behaviors and your actions. I'm going to show an example of this.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine.
That was Juicy by the Notorious B.I.G. And as you can see, after the really long intro where he's telling us a lot, he then comes in and tells us about his dreams and aspirations within the first 4 bars of his verse. This is one of the most memorable songs in hip-hop, and it follows one of the structures that I'm telling you.
Our aim here is to start our verses strong. We want to draw our listeners in and make sure they stick around. So using these methods will help with that 100%. These methods are also really good for storytelling in songs. If you analyze some of your personal favorites, or just like songs in general, you'll see that like 9 times out of 10, it's something like this that artists use when they start their verses. Your strength is going to be pairing up all the different types of persons with these descriptors. Hopefully you've been keeping up and you remember from before I said verses are commonly 16 bars in rap. So if you need a little extra help with writing a verse, just break it down. 16 is literally 4 times 4. In 4/4 time, everything is done in 4s. So this makes it really, really easy to get your point across and take things slow until you write a verse that you're really happy with. A lot of these songs actually use this method that I'm about to cover. So you take the first 4 bars, from bars 1 to 4, and you introduce a problem. What's been bothering you? What's on your mind lately? What do you need to get off your chest? The next set of bars from 4 to 8, we're going to then talk about the people around us. How are they responding to it? Are they just as bothered? Are they ignoring it? Do they even know it exists? Are they being sympathetic to the problem? Just let us know a little bit more. This is how we build a good story. So we've introduced the problem. We've further elaborated a little bit. Now from bars 8 to 12, we're going to talk about how we're going to solve the problem. Do we have plans to solve the problem? How are we going to cope with this? And lastly, once you've overcome the problem, what's next? How are you going to feel? Describe your feelings when you overcome that problem. That all happens in bars 12 to 16. Are you happy? Does it feel like victory? Is it bittersweet for any reason? Explain. So the last time I actually did this exercise was back in January of this year. I was struggling with writer's block and I was feeling really, really frustrated. This is how I overcame it for that day. I'm going to read you what I wrote here and you'll see how I utilize this exercise. From bars 1 to 4, I wrote, I've got this pen in my hand with a blank page. It used to be so easy to write, turned harder with age. I tried to look within myself, but nothing wants to surface. It's at my tongue tip, but I can't put my finger on just what the word is. Then the last 4 is how I'm going to feel when I overcome it. I can't wait till I'm official and a fan favorite. One day all of these lyrics gonna make me famous. I'ma live so free, telling my story to no end. Yo, I'm so glad I never thought to put down that pen. So now that we've covered how to write a hit verse, we're going to talk about how to write a chorus. There's like 5 different types of choruses I'm going to cover. The call to action chorus, the strong statement or message chorus, asking a question, the big picture chorus, and lastly, the conversational chorus. So let's break them down.
With the call to action chorus, you're basically demanding someone to do something or demanding the listener to take action. I've got 2 vastly different examples to show you guys. One is Stand By Me by Benny King, all the way from 1961, and the other is J. Cole, A Tale of Two Cities from 2014. There's no room for uncertainty in courses, like we're very clear and direct in our courses, always portraying the theme of the song. A call to action course in particular is really good at live shows. So you'll notice that courses in general that is going to do well with an audience, try to write a call to action course. Strong statement or the message course. This course in particular is really good if you feel something strongly. For example, if you wanted to declare love to someone, or if there is a lesson that you wanted to teach someone. For examples, I've got the classic I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston and another J. Cole, Love Yours. During the course, we're not afraid to use repetition. Notice how simple those were, yet so effective and iconic. Next up, ask a question. This course is just a good course. It's fun to sing along to usually. I've got 2 examples for us here. The first one is Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow by the Shirelles. And the other one, honestly, I wasn't even trying to shamelessly plug myself. It was just the first one that I thought of. But it's by me and it's called How Could I Love Her? Again, 2 very different songs from 2 different genres and 2 different time periods, but still use a similar idea. The big picture chorus. This is where we use wide view imagery. It's best to describe things that are better experienced than talked about. If you're discussing locations and surroundings, especially if they're like larger than life locations like New York, Vegas, whatever, this is the type of course you'd want to write. If you use a type of course like this, instead of just listening to your song, the audience then begins to visualize the story. A couple examples are The Weeknd, Blinded by the Lights, and Kanye West, All of the Lights. Conversational courses are some of my favorite. They make for really, really good storytelling. This is just when you're using the same words you'd use in a real-life conversation with someone in a song. I've got 3 examples of this just to show the diversity that can come from a conversational course, whether you're speaking to an enemy, or trying to depict a message, or speaking to a loved one or a crush. The first one is Ludacris, Get Back. Second one, Lil Baby, The Bigger Picture. And the third one, Tyler, The Creator, IFHY. Remember to ask yourself this lone question the next time you're working on a course. If I only heard the chorus, would I still get what the song is about?
Here are some of the hottest rap songs that hip-hop has ever seen. I'll show you some of the things that we talked about that you can find in these songs, and then you can start to do it for yourself with some of your favorites and other songs in general. Alright, so now that you're a pro rapper, let's put you to the test, fam. Write a hook, a verse, or something free form, and keep in mind the tips I just gave you. If you're doing a chorus, pick one type of chorus to do. If you're doing a verse, write 16 bars or 16 lines if you're struggling with the concept of bars. If it's a free form thing, I challenge you to do at least 20 lines. No pressure if you don't get there, but always try your best to push yourself.
Here's a few literary devices to consider using while writing your pieces. It'll help you make things a little bit more clever.
Don't get too caught up with the end result. Don't feel too obligated to share it right away if you don't feel comfortable. There will always be plenty more times for you to practice and improve, and then you can share your art with the world. Finding inspiration and creativity. So when it comes to inspiration, honestly, inspiration can come from anything, everywhere, every place. Of course, a big form of inspiration can be from personal experiences. So it's always a good start to start writing from your personal experiences, especially if you use music as a coping mechanism. It really helps with dealing with your emotions sometimes. Other forms of inspiration can come from films, books, other music. Even as simple as looking at the titles of those can really help to like jot creativity and inspiration in you. If you honestly feel really stuck, or you're looking for like a really good song title or something, you can look at titles that people have already used to create their projects. And I'm not saying copy them word for word, but see what comes up in you, like see what that inspires in yourself to come up with a new title. If, for example, something was called The Night's End, you can then start writing, like, what does that make you think about? You know what I mean? And you can start writing based off how that makes you feel, or what your thoughts were, or create your own story about what that even means, and just go from there. Quite literally, inspiration can strike from a word, a sound, like a single word, a single sound, anything that you see. So always be open and receptive to new forms of inspiration. Don't shut anything out, don't block anything out. Just always be on the lookout for ways to feel inspired. Remember to think outside the box. Be your own person. Don't try to be like everybody else. Use your uniqueness to your advantage. That will be your strength. We're tired of hearing the same old. So whatever makes you different, you need to really utilize that. Utilize all your creativity, and I guarantee you, you will never run out of things to write about. Beat/instrumental selection. So on your own time, you're gonna really wanna take some time to figure out your strengths and your weaknesses when it comes to certain beats. YouTube is a powerful tool in all aspects. There's so many things you can do on YouTube. My point is, looking up an assortment of beats and trying to freestyle or write to them can really help you pinpoint your comfort zone with certain beats and what you do best. Whatever you do realize you're best at, that's not to say that you're bound to that type of beat forever. It just means that that's what you're probably going to stick to the most, and that's probably what you're going to gain the most popularity from. Over time, of course, you can try your hand at other types of beats. I'll actually put a short list here of different types of beats that you can check out. But if you look at artists yourself, you'll see that there's the certain type of style or sound that they are associated with and that they're known for. That doesn't mean that they never do anything else. It's just that when you listen to that artist, that's what you're expecting. So think about that for yourself. What do you want people to expect when they hear your music? What type of beat are you on? So we found our beats. Now let's find our voice. Who are you? What is authentic to you? Finding your voice is so much more than just finding like your literal physical voice and what that sounds like. Though that is obviously very important, finding your voice has a lot to do with also finding yourself as a brand. If you're going to decide to be a rapper, you're going to have to start looking at being an artist as a business. This is no longer for fun. It's serious stuff. It takes a lot of time, energy, and trial and error. A mistake I was making was I was making songs that I felt people wanted to hear from me, and not songs that actually had subject matter that I felt most aligned with who I am and what I wanted to be known for. The biggest mistake you can make in your music, dead ass, is trying to live a lifestyle in your music that you don't live in your real life. Yes, the occasional big shot line is fine. A lot of the culture in hip hop does have to do with being boastful, trying to prove that you're the best, trying to say you're not one to mess with, whatever. So I understand that, and that's fine. But over time, in the long run, trying to portray this fabricated character that you made up in your head and pushed in your music is not going to be good for your career. Not only is it not good for your music career, but it's not good for you. Say over time you start growing as an artist and an individual, right? Your subject matter wants to change. You want to start talking about things that are more meaningful to you, what actually impacts your life, etc. The fans that signed up to hear you talking some other lifestyle are now going to leave because they don't want to hear that. That's not what they signed up for. Songwriting also becomes way easier for us when we're being authentic with ourselves. More often than not, you can beat writer's block just by sitting and analyzing what you've already written and asking yourself, why am I stuck right now? What am I trying to say next? What makes sense with the story? Like, you got to think about it. Writing has a lot to do with intention. Don't do anything without intention. You have to make sure that you're writing from a place that feels right, not just writing down words that you think you should be saying. In terms of finding your actual rap voice though, you may find that it changes over time, and that's totally okay. It's going to take you a lot of time and practice to see what really feels comfortable and what feels right to you and what sounds good to you. Similar to finding what beats you sound best on, it's a great idea to just try to practice different deliveries over beats. See what sounds right, like what feels good and comfortable but also sounds good sonically. I think the best advice for this one is don't quit. It's going to take you making quite a few songs before you fall into your sound. If for whatever reason you are already ready and you're comfortable with your rap voice and everything just worked out for you, that is awesome. The challenge for you now is to find ways that you can be versatile. I don't know who needs to hear this, but you're not Travis Scott. You're you, and that's great. Use that to your advantage. We don't want to hear another Travis, another Drake, another NBA Youngboy. We want to hear you. That has a lot to do with finding your rap voice. A great topic to write about is resilience. What is resilience? By dictionary definition, resilience means the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. Toughness. Resilience has a lot to do with understanding that there will be struggles, but regardless of the turmoil, you need to keep going. There's a great deal of emotional intelligence and mental strength involved with being resilient. So the more you are in touch with your emotions and your feelings, and you keep check of your mental health and make sure you're not spiraling in a negative way, then it helps with being resilient, because now you're able to better assess the problem or the situation that you're in and understand it for what it is and know that you can push past it and you can get through it. It is honestly very easy to give up when things get hard, but you have to understand that a lot of things are just temporary and there's a way through it, or at least there's a better way to deal with things, and it's worth it to do so. It's always worth it to give it your all and try to be as resilient as you possibly can. You know, my journey so far with music has definitely tested my resilience and has also made me resilient. I can talk about how writing helps me to deal with situations, but I'm looking at the actual process of being an artist. I've been resilient in my music by waking up and deciding to do it over and over again. I decide to write, I decide to be an artist, I decide to make beats, I decide to record myself, etc., etc. And the entire process isn't easy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna just like wake up after doing good work in one day and expect like the world to be handed to me. It's gonna be a process, it's gonna be a journey. So that's resilience within itself, just having to continuously work on something that is difficult. You know, pursuing a career in the music industry, it's a long game. It's not a get rich quick scheme. You have to be in it for the long haul. You have to understand that things aren't gonna just happen to you in lightning speed. You're gonna have to be tough. You're gonna hear no's. Things are gonna be frustrating. Maybe you're not gonna do so well at a show as you expected, or maybe the turnout's not what you expected, etc., etc. Your ego can be attacked 100 times, but you just gotta keep going. That is literal resilience. So it's not an easy game. It really isn't. And it's not for everybody. You have to be willing and committed, and you have to understand and know that that is the right thing for you. So I'm going to include a small list of some songs that have to do with the theme of resilience. Please do check them out. Definitely start thinking about your own life, what makes you resilient. And writing about resilience is always a great place to start, because in some way, shape, or form, we're usually all dealing with something and have to push through and be tough. While you're listening to these songs, maybe try to pinpoint some of the methods we talked about today and the different tips and tricks that I showed you, and see how these artists use it in their music. Alright, so that was pretty much it for all the songwriting stuff. Thank you so much for sticking around. I know it was a lot. I hope it wasn't too much. Now I'm just going to go over some overall tips and advice that I've picked up over the years that I felt had helped me when I decided to go full force and be involved in the music industry. Okay, so the first thing is, you do not need to know music theory to write fire melodies. This goes for producers, songwriters, rappers alike. If anybody is a producer, then you've probably come across the term music theory, and you know that people talk about understanding like chords and this and that. And maybe you feel obligated to know better how to play piano or any other instrument. And I'm not saying knowing how to do those things is a bad thing. That's amazing, and that could actually really help your game. But It's not necessary. You do not need to know music theory in order to write a fire melody. Rappers or singers, if you're writing a melodic hook or whatever, you don't need to know anything really about music theory. Honestly, sometimes knowing music theory can kill your creativity because now you're so technical. You're worrying about how things are supposed to be and not just being. Like, you're not just letting it be. Understanding that not all your songs are made for radio, and that's okay. If you've listened to albums, which I'm sure you've at least listened to like maybe one album in your life, then you know that that album has contained songs that simply just would never be played on radio or didn't make it to radio, didn't have a music video or whatever. And that's not to say the song's bad. It's a really good song. It's just that it's not designed for radio. Radio likes a certain type of song. They like the short, catchy hooks like we talked about. They like that type of structure, that A, B, C, B format. So understand that about your music. Don't be chasing radio placements just for all your songs. Pick some of the songs that you feel genuinely would do well on radio and go run with that, pitch that. Might I also add, you can be very intentional with that. You can purposely write songs that you think will do well on radio, so that way you're not guessing at the end of it or struggling and trying to find one that just simply doesn't work out for radio. You know what I mean? All right, art versus commerce. So this has to do with making money from our music, making a lucrative career out of our music careers. Things like art and music are very personal. When we write things, it can be very personal to us. It can be about our personal experiences, our personal emotions, etc. But if you plan on selling your songs, then you have to understand that you can't always be attached to your work. You get to pick and choose. If you know that you don't want to get rid of a song, then don't. If you're tightly bonded to it, that's okay. But don't be tightly bonded to everything you make. Because if someone were to come around and be like, oh, that's really dope, can I use that hook? And you want to say no because you're so attached to it, you're losing out on some income that you could have made. Do not think you are too cool for other genres. Get familiar with other genres. Explore other genres. Listen to all sorts of different people, because at the end of the day, that's going to contribute to your creativity. If you're ever stuck or you want to try something different, you can now recall a genre that you don't typically work in, but maybe there's a certain element that you can take from it and add into your music, and now you've got something super fire. This is how we've been able to progress with music. Over time, we've bent genres, we've added to them, and that's why all these different genres and styles exist. So don't be afraid to do that within your own music as well. Speaking of genres, you want to revisit and educate yourself on the greats of the genre that you're trying to get into. So if that is rap, that means listening to the old school rappers, the Tupacs, the Biggies, the MF Dooms, etc., and seeing why people regarded them as so great. Then, of course, listen to the new school rappers that people also see as great and draw some comparisons. What makes them different? Why are they the same? People before us have made mistakes, no doubt. They've also figured out things that maybe we haven't figured out yet. So learning from their mistakes and also from their victories can really, really help us in our personal lives as well as our music careers. Honestly, learning from other people is such an underrated thing to do. Keep working, keep your beliefs strong, and I promise you, you can be a great just like them as well. Alright, that was the last piece of advice I had for you. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this video to the end. I hope you gained some really good knowledge that you can go forward with in the future. Please do reach out to me if anything didn't make too much sense. I'm more than happy to clear it up for you. Again, thank you so much. See you next time, and happy songwriting.